She walked in alone, clutching a modest purse and wearing a simple, elegant dress, one that didn't scream designer but carried a quiet grace. Nobody recognized her at first. In a ballroom filled with glittering gowns, diamonds, and whispered status, she stood out, not because she tried to, but because she didn't. The charity ball was one of the most talked about events of the season, where high society gathered not just to donate, but to be seen. And yet, this woman, quiet and composed, seemed almost like she didn't belong. At least that's what many assumed, until everything changed. Guests exchanged glances. Whispers spread like wildfire. Who was she? Where was her date? Some guessed she might be lost or crashing the event, but others watched with curiosity, drawn in by her calm confidence. She wasn't looking for attention, yet attention followed her everywhere she went. Just as the night began to settle into its rhythm of champagne, speeches, and social climbing, something happened that no one could have predicted. The music paused. The host stepped aside, and from the back of the room a man entered, her husband. But he wasn't just any man. The moment he stepped into the light, the mood of the entire ballroom shifted. Gasps echoed, eyes widened. Some even stood in disbelief. His appearance wasn't just a surprise, it was shocking. What happened next left the crowd speechless, and the woman, who had entered alone, was suddenly at the center of something far bigger than anyone expected. It wasn't about the dress anymore. It wasn't about the glitz or the donations or the guest list. It was about a story, a moment, that would be talked about long after the night was over. But what was the truth behind his arrival? Why had she come alone? And what secret had they been keeping that would turn an ordinary evening into a night no one could forget? Stay with us, because this story is only just beginning. Just a few hours earlier, no one could have guessed how the night would unfold. The woman, her name was Anna, had stood in front of her small bedroom mirror, unsure whether she even wanted to attend the event. The invitation had come weeks ago, tucked inside a crisp white envelope, but she'd almost tossed it aside. Charity. Balls weren't her thing. They reminded her too much of a world she used to dream of, but never felt part of. Still, something made her go. Maybe it was the handwritten note on the invite, or maybe, deep down, she was hoping for something more. Anna wasn't from wealth. Her life had been built on hard work, long hours, and quiet sacrifices. She worked at a local community center, helping single mothers and low-income families get back on their feet. To her, success looked like a pantry full of groceries or a child finally smiling after a hard week. But tonight, she was stepping into a room full of people who measured worth in different ways, by designer labels, last names, and how much their table had donated. And yet, she didn't flinch. Her calm wasn't arrogance. It was something else. Something hidden. As guests kept glancing her way, trying to place her, whispers started to stir. Some thought she looked familiar. Others thought she might be someone important pretending to be ordinary. But nobody could guess what was really going on. Then came the man. Tall, well-dressed, with a presence that silenced the room. His name wasn't immediately said aloud, but recognition lit up the faces of many in the crowd. A wealthy businessman? A public figure? Someone powerful, no doubt. But what stunned people the most wasn't just that he was there. It was how he walked. Straight to Anna, eyes only for her. He didn't pause for greetings or cameras. Just one long, quiet moment that seemed to stop the world around them. What was the story between them? Why had she come alone? And what was it about her that had made this man, this mystery, walk into that room like nothing else mattered? The answers were coming, but not yet. As the man approached Anna, the room held its breath. Some guests leaned closer, hoping to catch a hint of their conversation. But there were no words, just a quiet exchange of glances between them. It was clear something deep and complicated lived in that silence. A few people started to murmur. Some recognized him now. Daniel Monroe, CEO of a major investment firm, seen in magazines and business panels. Known for his sharp mind, colder demeanor, and a private life wrapped tightly in secrecy. No one had ever seen him at events like this, not the flashy ones, not the ones meant for show. His sudden appearance here, walking straight toward a woman most assumed was a stranger, didn't make sense. Especially when his wife, as far as public records went, was someone else entirely. A different name. A different face. So who was Anna, really? The tension thickened when a photographer, trying to stay unnoticed, snapped a few pictures from the side of the room. Daniel's sharp glance sent a silent warning. Don't push. But that only stirred more questions. Why protect her? Why show up unannounced at a public event if they had something to hide? Meanwhile, near the bar, a woman in a sleek red dress gripped her glass tighter. She had arrived earlier, expecting Daniel to accompany her. Vanessa Sinclair, socialite, media darling. Rumored fiancée. Her smile now was forced, her eyes fixed on the pair across the ballroom. She whispered something to a man beside her, and within minutes, phones were out, screens lighting up. The news was going to leak, tonight, maybe even in real time. Back. At the center of the room, Anna shifted slightly, her fingers tightening around her small purse. She felt the stares, the judgment, the curiosity. She had prepared for a quiet evening, maybe some light conversation, nothing more. But Daniel's entrance changed everything. He hadn't warned her. He hadn't told her he'd come. And now, their carefully hidden story, the one they had worked so hard to keep away from the public eye, was about to be dragged into the spotlight. The real question was, why now? And what would it cost them both? Anna could feel the weight of every stare, every whispered question bouncing off the ballroom walls. The quiet hum of music faded into the background as Daniel finally stopped in front of her. He looked at her like the rest of the world didn't exist. But to Anna, everything existed all at once. Every past decision, every quiet promise, every secret now hanging by a thread. She managed a small smile, the kind that masked more than it revealed. "You shouldn't be here," she whispered, just loud enough for only him to hear. Daniel didn't answer right away. His eyes, usually sharp and unreadable in public, softened for just a second. "I had to be," he said simply. But even his calm voice couldn't hide the storm brewing around them. Across the room, Vanessa had vanished from her table. No one had seen her leave, but her absence was as loud as her presence had been moments before. And in her place, a group of reporters, uninvited but now clearly tipped off, started gathering at the entrance. Phones out, microphones ready. Security had been alerted, but the damage was already done. The mystery of Anna and Daniel was no longer quiet. Some guests began stepping away, pretending not to watch, while others openly stared. A few whispered to each other, phones in hand, trying to confirm if what they were seeing was real. The questions now weren't just about who Anna was, but what she meant to Daniel. A mistress? A hidden wife? A scandal? Anna's pulse pounded in her ears. She never wanted this. The quiet life they'd built had been enough. She had accepted the hidden love, the closed doors, the absence from the spotlight. But this was exposure, vulnerability. And once the truth was out, there'd be no going back. Daniel leaned in, his voice firmer now. "They're going to know, no matter what we do. I won't let them tell our story for us." Anna looked up at him, panic and love and fear all tangled in her eyes. The moment was seconds from breaking wide open. And somewhere, just beyond the ballroom doors, The world was already listening. Before Anna could respond, a loud chime echoed through the ballroom, the sound of the microphone being tapped. All heads turned as a man stepped onto the small stage, near the front, holding a sheet of paper. It was the evening's host, clearly flustered, clearing his throat awkwardly. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said, voice wavering, "before we continue with tonight's program, we've just been informed of a developing situation." Anna's stomach dropped. Daniel's jaw clenched. The host continued, "A press statement has just been released by the Sinclair Foundation and, well, we've confirmed it is real." He paused again, unsure whether to go on, but the silence in the room demanded it. "It appears Mr. Daniel Monroe has officially stepped down as chairman, effective immediately." Gasps broke out. Conversations erupted. This wasn't just society gossip now. This was public fallout, financial headlines, corporate power moves. The timing was too perfect to be coincidence. Anna's eyes darted to Daniel. "You did this?" she asked, stunned. "I had to," he said quietly, but there was more behind his words than he could explain here. "They were going to use you against me. I made the first move." Anna's world tilted. She had known their relationship carried weight. Daniel's decisions, his career, their secrecy, it had always been fragile. But this was no longer about them being found out. Someone had planned this. Someone had timed it down to the minute. And then came the second blow. Vanessa reappeared at the top of the stairs, not alone. By her side stood a man Anna had never seen before, but the flash of recognition on Daniel's face said everything. The stranger held up a thick envelope. "Mr. Monroe," he said calmly, projecting his voice across the hall. "You've been served." The room froze. It wasn't just personal anymore. It wasn't just a love story tangled in secrecy. This was legal, strategic, a takedown. Anna felt the floor shift beneath her. The man she loved had just lost everything in front of hundreds of people. And now she had a terrifying question racing through her mind. Had she been the reason it all came crashing down? The envelope hung in the air like a final verdict. Daniel didn't flinch as the stranger placed it firmly in his hand. Cameras clicked. Phones lit up. The charity ball had turned into a live spectacle, something closer to a courtroom than a celebration. Vanessa stood nearby, eyes locked on Daniel, her expression unreadable. She had known this would happen. She had planned it, and Anna, still frozen beside him, realized this had never just been about jealousy or scandal. It had been a power play. Daniel slowly opened the envelope, scanning the documents inside. "They're pushing a fraud investigation," he muttered, under his breath, almost more to himself than to Anna. "Claiming misuse of company funds, all tied back to me stepping away." Anna's heart pounded. "But that's not true," she said, eyes wide. "You didn't—" "I know," he said, almost with a faint smile. "But the truth was never the point. This is about control." At that moment, a man from the crowd stepped forward. Elderly, but with presence, someone not used to being ignored. "That's enough," he said loudly. "Let's not pretend this is about ethics." All eyes turned to him. "My name is Harold Langston. I've worked beside Daniel Monroe for 15 years. If there's anyone who's guilty of manipulating funds, it's not the man standing beside this woman. It's the people trying to destroy him." The room buzzed with confusion. Vanessa turned pale. Harold handed Daniel a flash drive. All the files. Every transfer. Every hidden deal. If they want war, give them the truth. Daniel looked stunned. And for the first time, truly vulnerable. But then came the final twist. Anna took the drive from Daniel's hand. "You're not going," To do it? She said gently. I am. Daniel blinked. Anna, what are you— I've kept your secret long enough, she said. But this is our story now, and I'm not going to let them end it for us. She turned, heels clicking across the marble floor, headed straight for the press crowd at the door. The simple woman who entered alone wasn't leaving. That way, and nobody saw that coming. The ballroom, once a place of glitter and gossip, had become dead silent as Anna approached the reporters. Her voice, steady and clear, cut through the tension. You've heard one version of this story, she said. Let me tell you ours. With cameras rolling, Anna revealed the truth. Not the scandal people expected, but the quiet sacrifices behind it all. She spoke of the years spent in the background, not out of shame, but protection. She told them about Daniel stepping down before anyone could use her as leverage, about the corruption within the company, and about the evidence, now in her hands. And as she spoke, the judgment in the room began to shift. Whispers gave way to silence. The power in the room moved, not toward those who had tried to ruin them, but toward the couple who had chosen truth over fear. Daniel watched from a distance, pride and disbelief mixing in his expression. He had spent years shielding Anna, thinking it was strength. But tonight, she showed him what real strength looked like. Vanessa quietly slipped out, her plan unraveling before her eyes. The headlines that followed in the days ahead didn't belong to her. They belonged to Anna, the woman no one saw coming, the one who showed up alone and left the room forever changed. Within a week, investigations shifted directions. The Sinclair Foundation came under scrutiny. Daniel was cleared publicly, and though he didn't return to his old position, he didn't need to. He and Anna began building something new, together and in the open this time. No secrets, no shadows. The charity. Ball became a story. People retold not for its scandal, but for its heart. About a simple woman with quiet courage who refused to stay silent when it mattered most. And as Anna and Daniel walked hand in hand into the future, no red carpet, no flashbulbs, just honesty and love, the world finally saw them for who they really were. Not a mystery, not a scandal. Just two people who chose truth over fear and walked away stronger than ever.